Hello and welcome to this 1 hour sculpting demo. This is the one that we did last time, and I did have some technical issues. I was like off of the outside of the frame half the time sculpting, and so I'll try to do better this time, and we'll see if we can do it. I'm outside of my studio, so that makes recording a little bit tricky, but I still want to share some content with you guys. And so I've got, as far as supplies, I've got this floor sample from Home Depot. This works great, but also just a piece of wood can work fine, or a small plate or whatever you have will work great for the base for these studies. This is about 4 inches by 4 inches, or what is that, like 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, something like that, for the backboard, for the backing of this sculpture. And as far as clay, I'm going to be using some monster clay. So I have some monster clay. This is medium, the gray stuff. It's a nice color. It's a popular clay. It's not my favorite type of clay, but it's what I brought. And so that's what we're going to be using. Just right here. I'm just going to grab some of that, bring it over. And I just have some basic tools, a couple of homemade loop tools here, and just a cheap, sculpting tool. And a butter knife, which is probably one of the tools that I use the most. Is just a simple butter knife. I like the ones that don't have any ridges. And so let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to be sculpting the ear in this study. So let's go ahead and start building out that foundation for the ear. And as I'm working, I'm just going to try to be looking a little bit more often, make sure that I'm in frame, that everything looks good for the video. So let's just start by adding some clay, because we're going to be sculpting, imagining that we're sculpting onto the side of the head, that there's the jaw over here, and it's, we could go ahead and build in some anatomy, but it's for this purpose, is not that essential. With the other facial features, I like to build out quite a bit of anatomy, because the eye socket is really, it's really informed by how the nose and the jaw and the forehead, move into that eye area. But with the ear, it's kind of separate from the other facial features, so it's not as important that you get as much detail in the surrounding areas, though we could maybe just give an indication of where the jaw line would be. Maybe the jaw is coming off this side, something like that. And we'll just put a layer of clay onto our board just to have something to build off of to start with. And we'll say that the jaw is there. Maybe there's the back of the skull, the zygomatic, or no, what is that? The sternocleidomastoid, the mastoid process here is back behind the ear. So we'll say that the back of the skull goes behind here, the jaw is coming over here. But you could really just put it flat and not worry about that too much. And let's go ahead, just a couple more pieces, and we'll get started forming the ear. The simplified shape of the ear is just like an apple slice, or a slice of orange. And so that's usually what I'll get started with, and then we'll refine and define the details inside the ear. Now the best way probably is to do this by building up the ear with little pieces of clay, but for the sake of time, I'll probably, when I'm doing the sculpture competition, which is what I'm doing these studies for, I'm trying to prepare for that, I'll probably try to get the shape of the ear just about right, and then come in and remove some of the details on the inside portion of the ear. So I just want to build this out a similar way that I would for the full portrait. With the portrait, the ears are kind of overlooked. They get a little bit less love than the other facial features, just because they're kind of off to the side. They're not as essential for capturing a likeness. You know, rarely do people say, you got everything right, the eyes look good, the nose, the mouth, but the ears are just, you know, you didn't capture that likeness in his ears. So occasionally there'll be a person where the ears are really, you know, a really dramatic feature of their face, but for the most part, ears are kind of a more subtle feature. They're still interesting, and I still think one of the best features to practice because they have a lot of just very organic forms that are very interesting. And so when you practice sculpting the ear, just enables you to represent all of the organic forms of the body just a little bit better. And we'll get into that as we start developing the details. I'm going to make this a little bit larger. We'll go life size, if not just a little bit bigger, to make sure that we have plenty of room to build out these details. So you can see I'm just kind of going for a C shape. I don't have any references right now, so I'm going to go kind of for a generic ear. And let's see, we got this outside portion of the ear, which is the helix that kind of wraps around the ear. And I'm just laying that in. And I've got a little bit, you know, you can see the earlobe. The ear is, right now, it's a little bit too upright, and usually the ears are a little bit more of an angle. So I'm going to push this lower part a little bit forward, and the upper part back just a little bit, so that we have more of that that angle. It kind of follows the angle of the jaw. So if the jaw, the part of the jaw, the back part of the jaw is right here, and then it travels up, then the ear will be about at that same angle generally. So that's pretty good to start with. Now let's look at it from the side, just like that, and kind of build out a likeness of the ear from the side. Now it depends on the person. You know, some people have ears that are quite out from the side of their head. They're very prominent. You know, what do they say? The trophy. Like, looks like a trophy with the little handles that come out of the side of the face. Some people have ears that are very flat to the side of their head. So let's just imagine kind of somewhere in between, just an average. And I'm actually going to go in and give an indication of where the ear canal is, which is generally about halfway between the top of the ear and the bottom of the ear. So about halfway between top here, bottom here, that's where the ear canal will be, where the ear goes in and meets in with a bony feature of the skull, that ear canal. And then with that just indicated, we can make it a little bit smaller. That just gives us some more information. I'm going to come in and add a little bit of clay for the antihelix. So the antihelix is this Y shape inside the ear. Now when we're sculpting the ear, I always recommend that people think of question mark YU, and I'll actually just draw that in right here. So we got a question mark that comes here like that, and then a Y like that, and then a U right there. So question mark YU. I don't know if you can see that very well, but that's this outside part of the helix is the question mark that ends right here. So it kind of curls all the way around, and then has a little, you know, the dot for the question mark. Inside here is going to be the Y right there, and then right here is the U, which is, and then there's going to be the ear canal area. It's right next to that, or the ear notch, I should say. It's right next to that ear canal. So those are just kind of the features that I'm looking for, and I'm going to be laying in with little pieces of clay. Question mark YU. It's just a helpful series of symbols to better represent and remember what's going on with these complex features of the ear. So there's a little kind of a bump right there. And then there's the ear notch. I'm going to come in and remove some clay to say this is where the ear notch is going to be. And the Y, because I have this mirror, I am going to be looking a little bit at my ear. I can see it a little bit. Let's see, I don't know if you guys can see it too much, but just go right next to the camera, look in my ear just to remind myself of some of those features and how they basically merge with one another. That's one of the most important things when sculpting the ear, is thinking about how are these soft forms coming in contact with one another and interacting with one another. And if you can get those transition areas accurate, you know, there's going to be some hard transitions here where the forms come in and create like a crease that's very hard, and then that transition generally softens up as it moves to this upper part. Let's see, let's look at it from the side. I don't want to do exactly like my ears because I kind of have weird shaped ears, so I'm going to do more generic, normal ears. I have like elf type ears that are kind of pointed a little bit. So I'm gonna kind of wrap this Y around and press it down. It's coming out a little bit more from the side. So sometimes on some people the anti-helix will actually come out more on the side than the helix. That is rare. It's not super common, but it does happen from time to time, and I think it looks interesting. So I might go with that. But we'll add a little bit more to the helix that wraps around this main part that's wrapping around the ear. Let's see. Yeah, needs a little bit more. Gonna come off to the side even more and press the earlobe in a little bit. And that earlobe can be hanging, or it can be, what is it, a hanging earlobe or an attached earlobe. And we'll probably do a hanging because that's interesting. Mine are attached, but we'll do a hanging earlobe. It kind of has some has a sharp crease at the bottom of the earlobe, then a transition. Let's look at it from the side. Still need a little bit more in the upper part of the helix, this wrapping around. But we've got that basic orange or apple slice that we're building on top of. So we'll continue to add to that. Boom, 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 boom. And let's look at that from the side. That's looking a little bit better. Okay, let's go ahead and add in some clay for this inner part of the Y. So this part of the Y, this, what would you call that? The back part, the part that's closer to the back of the head, that's usually softer. It's going to be like a rolling hill. And then the inside part right here of this Y is a sharper hill. It's like a sharper edge to it at the top, generally. And then this helix comes in and dips as it moves in towards the middle area of the ear. It goes behind this little bump in front of the ear that helps make up the ear notch. Let's see. I forget the anatomical term for this. Let's see. The tragus, maybe? The tragus or the tragus. And then the antitragus on this side. And then in between those is the intertragic notch, or the ear notch. This is an important feature for sometimes if you're measuring a specific person For the proportions of the head, you'll take from the ear notch down to like the middle of the chin or the tip of the nose or the center line between the eyebrows, and you'll measure from the ear notch to there and then do a lot of measuring. I'm not big into measuring generally. We'll see. Maybe I'll do some measuring at the competition because it does kind of help see if you're in the right ballpark. But there are people that just, they like have it down to a science where they're measuring every part of it and getting it really accurate with the numbers before they go in and sculpt. But I prefer to be a little bit more free with it. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not, maybe it just causes more inaccuracy. But a lot of these people that, measure everything, you still have to have the skills to sculpt, because you can measure everything, have the measurements all perfect, but the shape of the features will still be off and not look that good. So here we've got the basic features of the ear in place. So now is the part where we're going to start to think about those transitions. We might still add pieces of clay here and there to build out some of these forms, but for the most part we've got that question mark YU in place. Let's see, and we can start to think about, okay, how are these forms playing with one another, interacting. Let's do this tool and start removing some clay in some areas to give a little bit more space for what's happening inside this part of the ear. And that dips in quite a bit. So as this helix is wrapping around, it comes towards the outside, away from the head, and then it tucks in gets closer to the skull, to the side of the head. Tucks in as it's curling around, so you want to make sure that you have that kind of tuck. Then we will come on the back side and we'll push in some clay to get the concha, which is like shell, and that's on the back of the ear. Back here, I can't really see it in the mirror, but I am aware that that's what's happening at the back, so I'm just gonna kind of use my tool and push in a little bit to give an indication that back of the ear is not, it doesn't just go flat straight down into the skull. There's like a little shell or bowl shape, and so I'm just going to press that in, and also that helps to bring the helix out. So that helix is kind of a separate form from the concha on this back side. And actually, I'm gonna maybe remove some clay, push some clay into the side. We're going to try to get it about the right amount of mass. I'm looking at it from above just to see how that concha feels. If we have enough space in there, if it's tapering the right way, so it'll kind of taper as it moves in towards the head. So I'm looking at that taper. If you're sculpting from references, I recommend really checking your references. If you're sculpting a specific person, you want to look, from above if you can, from the side, and really try to capture the shape of those features as best you can. Let's see, that looks a little bit better. I'm going to pull the helix out even just a little bit more by adding a little bit of clay here, the coil of clay, to that outside helix of the ear. Let's do some right there, and then also I'm gonna bring this, because I did like the idea of having that ear be, or that inside antihelix coming out, extending out just a little bit farther than the helix. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now let's add some more to this soft part of the Y and the more sharp part. Let's see. And then in between these forms makes a little triangle. I think that's called the oh, actually, that might be is that the tragus and the antitragus and the intratragic notch? No, that was right. So that is, what's the term for it? In between that Y. I forget. Anyway, these heads of the Y have a name, and then there's the fossa, like some sort of fossa, meaning like little concave space in there that's a little triangle right there. Okay, so that's looking okay. Let's kind of push things around. We want to get things to where we're comfortable with them. Let's move this up a little bit, away from there. We want it to feel like everything's basically in the right spot before we start to refine and define the textures. Let's see, I'm going to taper this a little bit. And yeah, that's looking a little bit better. Okay, so yeah, now we can start to go around and give an indication of what's happening between the transitions. There's generally a very sharp transition, a sharp crease inside this part of the Y at the lower, like, tail of the Y. Very sharp crease, and then it softens as it moves down here. Gets softer. I can soften that up a little bit and pull my tool around the clay. And then as it moves up, it gets firmer. Or I mean, it's more of a gentle transition, I should say. Not firmer. The like hill between the forms is a little bit soft. Okay, let's switch up some tools. Just switching back to whatever tool I feel like gets the job done best. The tools, these little loop tools are kind of helpful to get into these inside areas that are a little bit tricky with just a knife or something. That would be kind of tricky. And if you're just working with your hands, that's a little bit tricky to get into. Let's see, I'm gonna kind of sharpen that one. This one's nice and soft. And let's pull this one down and make that a little bit sharper. And also, something that a mistake that I'm making is to make this Y too uniform in its shape. I'm getting too close to that symbol of the Y. Actually, we can redraw that. Let's do it a little bit bigger. So we have it over here. So we got the question mark, and then Y, a lowercase y, and a U, question mark YU. So when we make the Y too uniform all the way down, it doesn't look natural. So generally it'll get wider. The Y will widen up at the top. I'm going to add some clay here. Add some clay to the to this inside part, and then kind of wrap it around with my finger, and then also to the back area. And let's see, also I'm looking at my ear just to get a reference of what's happening. How are those forms transitioning into one another? But the ear that I'm looking at the opposite ear. So this is, what is this? This would be a, no, I guess it's, so this would be a right or a left ear, but it's mirrored because I'm looking at my left ear. There's a mirror image, so I have to kind of switch the forms around. So it's not perfect, but it gives me an idea of what's happening with those forms, how they're interacting with one another, playing with each other. That's what you want to be looking for. That looks a little bit better. So you see, it goes from thin and then thickens up. Over here, that already feels more natural. Let's see. And then I'm looking to see like what other areas just feel a little bit, maybe a little bit off. You just feel like they're not quite working. I think, let's see, and then the ear canal is still right there. Dun, 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 dun. So let's see. This is, I mean, it's looking better. Still not super great. Let's see. As I look at it in the camera, I feel that. Let me move this just a little bit, just to make sure I'm not going off. And then I'll move this as well. Okay, that way if I go up, I'm not out. Have I been out of the frame some of the time? Man. It's usually I have an external monitor where I can make sure that I'm not going off the frame. I'm just gonna turn this so I can see it in the mirror. Okay, hopefully I haven't been going off frame up here, but sometimes I do. So I just don't think about it. You know, I'm holding it in my hand and moving all over the place. Let me move up just to make sure that even when I go up, I'm not out of frame. All right. So, what are we doing on? How are we doing on time now that I can't see? We are at, okay, we're about at the half-hour mark, so I should have plenty of time to kind of refine and define these details. So let's go ahead and start to do just that. So I'm going to be looking at it from different angles and start to bring my tool across the form. So if the form travels in this direction, I want to come over top and smooth it out. And that is a lot more effective at establishing these organic shapes and organic forms. It just is much easier when you're coming across the form than if you're just traveling along the direction of the form. It naturally, for some reason, we just want to travel along the form, but you'll notice that if you do that, it looks a lot more amateur. So if I just like come over here, like all of these bumps in the form, they stay there. So instead of following the form, you can maybe do it a couple times to get the form established, but then once you're trying to fix the issues with the form, then you want to come across. Sometimes you can come from one direction, or you can do it kind of a cross hatching from different directions. But we're really just trying to shape those hills to make them more closely resemble our reference. So let's dig out a little bit more. Sometimes this inside part has a little bit more of a curl to it, or like a dip, a big chasm that runs down here. So I want to add that. Let's maybe take some clay and add to this curve of the helix. It's coming around and kind of hiding this part of the ear. Dun, dun, dun. And if you find these videos helpful, I hope you'll like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have more people subscribed. I do a lot of sculpting content, but you know, this is my personal YouTube channel, so I'll sometimes do videos on all sorts of different topics, anything that interests me. But I do like sculpting. If you want sculpting without all the personal stuff that comes from, you know, being an opinionated artist, then the Proco 3D channel is just art, you know, sculpture related videos and tutorials, and all of the free videos from my online courses are on that YouTube channel. So it's a great resource for sculpting, and I hope that these videos help you guys create some awesome sculptures. That's my goal. If you're interested in any of my courses, there's a portrait sculpting course, a figure sculpting course, and a hand sculpting course, and you can find links to those if you go to my YouTube profile, and then the link there's like all my links, and but you can find them also over at proco.com/sculpture, proco.com/portrait sculpt, and proco.com/hand sculpt. So just got to throw a advertisement in there, because that's a big part of how I make a living as an artist, is from those courses, and so I always appreciate anybody that invests in those, and it really helps me out. I also have a Patreon page if you're interested in getting direct feedback on your work. And there's a lot more of these types of demos where I don't cut anything out. I just have the sculpting process and just walk you through my thought process as I'm working. And so that there's a lot of that type of content available on my Patreon page. Yeah, so like, subscribe, Patreon. I also have some ebooks that I've done, an artist's X-ray vision, the male figure and the female figure. Those are fun, and there's a lot of diagrams, like the question mark why you. There's diagrams in each of those books that show how that applies, on top of reference photos with some cool diagrams that I think are really helpful. They've really helped me out, and so I enjoy sharing those with you guys. So, and those ebooks are under $10, and they also really help me out. Anybody that gets those, I also appreciate it. So now that we got the promo stuff out of the way, which I hope you guys will take advantage of, I'm just kind of pushing things around, trying to find the forms a little bit more, and let's see. Man, have I been? Let me move over just a little bit, make sure that I'm. Oh man, my leg is like half falling asleep how I'm sitting, but that's okay. We're doing good, making good time, starting to look somewhat like an ear. I'm trying to decide what areas need what. Let's see. So this is kind of a sharper edge, this outside, and then it transitions to a more rounded, like dowel shape as it moves down. At least on me, that's what I'm seeing. So I'm going to try to replicate that. And maybe push these in a little bit. And then come in and tuck in that clay and pull around. Something like that. Wrapping around. And you can see what I mean by these, like how these forms play with each other. I'm going to push this to kind of squeeze these forms together. That there's like these sharp areas, these sharp creases in some places, and then very soft transitions in other places. So the ear is just really fun. It's always a fun exercise. And, you know, if you make some mistakes, it's not super noticeable in the ear. People aren't generally hyper critical of the ears when they look at the sculpture. They'll usually look at the, you know, if it's a full figure sculpture, they'll look at the head first, the eyes. If you do well on those, they'll look down at the hands. And if you can do that, good. If you can do the face and the hands, then you're pretty much in the top, like 10% of sculptors, because everybody struggles with the portrait, everybody struggles with the hands. So really sets you apart when you get my online courses on sculpting the portrait and sculpting the hands. Those will help you be amazing sculptors. But the main thing with sculpting is just doing it. Just do it. Do it! You just have to get the time, get the reps in of like sculpting these features over and over again many times, and the more you do it, you just get better and better. And you know, even after you've done it for a while, you get out of practice. Like right now, I'm working on a barn on the property. I'd like to turn it into a larger studio so that I can invite people to come do weekly or like workshops. So maybe it's like a 3-day workshop or something where you come and sculpt with me directly, and we have a model there for the portrait or for the figure or whatever it is. And these would be like summer workshops. And so I'd like to have a place to do that. Right now my studio is just in my house, and we want to keep, you know, house stuff and work stuff separate, especially when it comes to inviting anybody. But we have some buildings on the property, so I'm converting that barn into a workshop. If you're interested in that, if you think that sounds fun, then I hope you'll message me on Instagram and just let me know that you'd like to be informed when those workshops are available. Hopefully I'll be starting it in 2025. So with that, I've been doing a lot more just construction, just building, you know, doing the floors and like shoring up the foundation of the building, making sure it's not gonna fall over if I have other people in there, that it's gonna be a solid structure to work in. And so as I do that, you know, as I'm spending more hours doing that, I notice that, you know, you just get worse at other things if you haven't been doing it regularly. But it comes back. So if you've spent the hours to become proficient at something, then yeah, you'll get rusty. You get rusty like pretty fast. But then if you just immerse yourself and work at something for a couple hours, you know, or an hour a day, like I'm doing here, for a couple weeks, you can get back to close to your best if you just dedicate the time. Whatever the memory that you've built, the muscle memory comes back. It does come back, but it does take a little bit of practice to bring it back. So it's just better to just stay, you know, just regularly sculpt, and then you don't fall off the wagon and lose the ground that you've gained as you build these skills. That is my that's my thoughts. that's all I have to say about that. My thoughts on keeping up your skills. Let's see. So I feel like this Y is a little bit too small. Like I want this part of the Y to come down a little bit. And yeah, looks a little bit better. And then I'm going to push this in just a little bit, soften this side. That feels a little better. Pushing things around. And same thing here. I'm going to remove just a little bit of clay up there. Let's see, how's that looking? It's looking a little bit better. Maybe just a little bit right here removed. That comes and turns into that inside part of the ear. It's got some earwax that needs to be removed. Okay, let's see. Yeah, and then this is gonna soften up, just using the tool to push the clay into the surface. This will, so I'm following the form a little bit, and then I will try to come over and soften that helix as it tucks into the inside portion of the ear. That question mark that comes around, wraps around and goes to the inside. So that's looking a little bit better. Let's see. And here, I feel like this is going to be more of an angle. Something like that. And with this, let's see. With this Y, how does that transition? On me, there's kind of a bump right there. So it's pretty full in that area. I'm going to add that to there, and then some clay right there as well. And then I'll just kind of clean up that texture, push things around. Some people ask, like, how do you get your sculptures so smooth? And it looks like the sculpture is getting smooth, but it's not really getting that smooth. It's just getting a consistent texture, and the forms are I guess you could say smooth. They're like they're consistent all the way through. So a big part of smoothing is what I said about coming across the form, coming at it from different directions. That's going to really help your sculptures feel softer, more flesh-like, more supple. As Edward Lantieri would write in his book Modeling and Sculpting the Human Figure, he likes the word supple. Supple, which is, I mean, who doesn't like the word supple? Supple. So, now that earlobe is looking more supple, soft, rounded, cushiony, pillowy. What are some other adjectives? I need a thesaurus. A thesaurus. trying to talk during all these demos, it gets you kind of run out of things to say at some points. But, I try to keep it hopping, keep it going with some supple conversation. So, let's see. I'm gonna come with the knife. The knife I like for like convex areas. So like right here, I can take the knife and roll it over the surface. And so I like to use this flat of the blade for smoothing things. I can come at it from a couple different directions and just smooth things out. And it works great for that. I hope if you're watching the video, you want the full demo, I hope you'll just grab some clay and just sculpt right along with it, and then try to follow along with what I'm doing. Maybe have a mirror or some reference images. That's a great way to study, is just like sculpting right along with the person. It's easy to watch a video of somebody doing something like this and then feel like you've learned a lot, but you haven't learned nearly as much as you would if you just do it with them and actually have some clay in your hands, move it around, and build that muscle memory that solidifies those forms. Like this question mark why you, if you build that a couple times, that'll be much more ingrained in your head, and you'll kind of understand, where's the half point, where's the ear notch compared to the top of the ear, compared to the earlobe, how big is the earlobe. These things just come with time and with practice, and you can't get it from just watching. You can't get great at sculpting from just watching videos. So that's why with the courses, I'm always encouraging students to do the assignments and take advantage of those. Oh, and if you go to my online store, there's free PDFs for the portrait sculpting course and the figure sculpting course that has all of the assignments. So if you kind of struggle sometimes knowing what to sculpt next or what to work on, you can go download those PDFs for free, and they have all of the free lessons, and it's labeled like whatever's free will be is not it just like says the lesson and then gives a description and the assignment, and the premium stuff is labeled premium. So if you haven't gotten the full course, well, I hope you do, but if you just want to take advantage of all the free stuff, if you get that PDF, watch those video tutorials of the free lessons, and do those assignments, you'll be better off than a lot of the people that purchased the full course but didn't end up doing all those assignments. So I would encourage you to do that if you're interested at mastering the art of traditional clay sculpting, which is what I love, something that I really enjoy. And I enjoy teaching because I like to be able to see and help students do something that they couldn't do before. Sculpt something in a way that just looks and feels right, and you get that feeling where it's like, oh, I know I couldn't have done this a couple months ago, but now I can, and it's just a great feeling. I love that feeling, and I like sharing that with you guys. So I hope you guys will consider getting that free PDF, taking advantage of all the free content that I try to put out, and then when you become famous sculptors, or when you make money through other endeavors in your life, then you can get the premium stuff, and I always appreciate that. If you found the free stuff worthwhile, then I always appreciate those that do invest in the premium, obviously. But that's it's hard. There's a balance to be had, because people on YouTube, they don't want it. You don't want an hour-long pitch on courses. So I get criticized sometimes for, oh, why are you pitching your courses so much? And I'm like, well, this is like how I make money. Like, how else am I supposed to feed my family if nobody buys the the stuff I put out. You know, I'd have to just get a job doing something different, and not put up, not have a YouTube channel, not, you know, do something that I enjoy as much as creating art and sharing that, you know, which is, you know, it's doable, but I just feel like I'd be miserable doing something that didn't allow me to get in touch with that creative energy of building something and making something and studying, you know, the forms of the figure and the anatomy and all of that. I love doing it, and so I guess I just want to be able to share that, continue to share that, and so that's why I do plug the content or the courses and other things that I sell. So, but I apologize if you're somebody that's already gotten them and you're like, yeah, I've already, you know, supported in that way, but I still have to listen to this guy. Then I apologize. But, you know, every artist has to learn to sell something. I mean, if you're going to make money doing art, you have to learn to sell. You have to learn to market your stuff, you know, find things that other people value. That's a big part of being able to make it as an artist. And it's tricky. It's tricky. It's something I'm still figuring out. Like, what's the right way to approach things, the right way to get engagement and help people as well as market, you know, products and digital stuff and or physical products. You know, you're selling physical sculptures. Even if you're gonna hire a gallery to sell your stuff and pay them 50%, which is well worth it because it's very difficult to sell, you still have to sell yourself to the gallery and your work, that you can produce work, and so you can't get away from sales as an artist. You know, art is a business, and art and by sales I just mean communication, like communicating about your art, why it matters, what you're trying to say as an artist, why somebody should choose, you know, your work of art or sculpture or whatever it is, design, over somebody else. That's all sales, basically. Communication. And here I'm probably talking your guy's ear off. And here it is, your ear, or an ear. Let's see, how is this looking? I don't know. It's not that great. What are we looking at as far as time? Okay, we're at 53 minutes. So, let's see, from this side view, I feel like that helix is not shaped in a way that I really like from when I look at it from right here. So I'm going to just come and bring some clay to push this out a little bit further and see if I can't make it something that I like more when I look at it from this front view. And as I add that, you know, then this helix becomes too thick here, so I'll have to thin that out. Sometimes it's, you know, it's tempting to not want to make big changes as you get close to the end of a sculpture like this. I have a goal for these studies to do it just in an hour, and so I don't have a lot of time. So it would be tempting to just be like, well, it's, you know, it's okay, and I don't want to mess up the stuff that I've already done. But, you know, just go for it. If you feel like there's something that needs to be changed that would make it a better sculpture, be willing to risk it making it worse, because it's better to have a failed sculpture that you tried to make great than to just have a mediocre sculpture. And if you try to make it great, you know, then there's a chance you could succeed. But if you don't try, if you just are playing it safe the whole time and not making any risks or not taking any risks, then that's one of the biggest risks, because then your work is just it's just average, or it doesn't have that what would you say, that like hint of mastery that comes from pushing things and changing things and experimenting. And so even though it's getting close to when I need to be finishing up, I'm gonna still be willing to make some major changes, and we'll see if I can fix it by the end. And if I can't, then I've failed. I failed at life. I failed. But if I can, then I haven't. So we'll see. What we got? Like 5 more minutes. We'll see if I can get it to a point where I like that side profile a little bit more. Let's see. And I'm going to pull this out a little bit. We'll say that this person has ears that are coming off the head a little bit more, and I think I like it. I like it a little bit better. I don't know. There's something that's off. Maybe a little bit of clay down here. A little bit down here as it moves and transitions over. Yeah, we'll do that. Then I'll move this. Boom, boom. Gotta move fast now that I've changed something, so let's move things around. Boom, boom, boom. So, what am I thinking? Yeah, it's coming. I'm gonna round this off, this anti-helix, try to get it looking good. And let's smooth out these forms. Press these down. Sometimes the clay, you need to press it down a little bit to get it to attach to the surface, depending on the type of clay that you're using, or how warm or cool it is. If it's non-dry modeling clay, like a plasticine or plastilina, like this, monster clay is non-drying, so it's oil and wax based, and so it's great for mold making. But it's not great if you want to be able to like bake the clay. Then you have to use like a polymer clay, like Sculpey or Fimo polymer clay. Let's see, so got that. Let's see, I feel like that now goes in a little bit too much. I'm going to put some clay and bring this inside triangle up a little bit. Man, I'm really making quite a bit of changes. I'm like re-sculpting this entire Y on the inside. Shoot, I might not finish. I want to have it so that by the end, it's a good looking sculpt, but I might be just messing everything up. So we'll see what happens. Let's come across the form a couple times. How are we looking? And what are we at? Oh man, we're running out of time. We're just about out of time. Okay, well, Let me just cheat just a little bit. Do like one more minute. Okay, well, I don't know if I got it to where I was happy with. A lot of these studies, you know, an hour, it's not always enough to get a sculpture that I'm really happy with. But the whole point of these features is to just refresh my memory with them and get a little bit better and prepare myself for that sculpture competition. So we'll see how I do. You know, we'll see. I'll try to keep you guys updated with that. Again, check out the links for all the stuff that I have available, my ebooks, my online courses on sculpting, and my Patreon. And if you're interested, I hope you'll reach out to my Instagram at AndrewJosephKeith15 if you'd like to be on my email list for if I do like in-person workshops or those types of things. There's also going to be a sculpture competition that I'll be hosting with Proco and some other sponsors, and there will be some cash prizes for that, and we'll do a figure sculpture. And so I'll let you guys know as that gets closer. So watch out for that. As always, I hope you can stay creative and productive, and I'll see you guys in the next video lesson. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it.